time for the Week 7 recap, and it is an after dark iteration of the fantasy football recaps as this recording is being started at 11:49 p.m. So after dark, I don't think that really means anything because these things have been off the rails no matter what time they begin. But tonight, we've got a quality guest. Pete Nolan is coming on. And so I have high expectations that this will not be an unlisted recap. And as you can see, my background here tonight is this fireplace that this animal character I have is blocking. And the animal character, at first I thought it was a giraffe. And for those who don't know, I love giraffes. It might be my favorite animal. Thought it was a giraffe, like a poor attempt at one. Obviously, it doesn't look like a great giraffe, let's be honest. Kind of looks like an inverse giraffe without spots. It's actually a cow, and that makes more sense. And so I'm stuck with this thing now, I guess, when I don't even want to be it. So is life, as is life, whatever the saying is. I don't know. It's after dark. All right, Week 7 headline. Let's go with elite quarterback play. An elite quarterback play from the highly drafted ones. Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts. They were 4 of the top 11 fantasy scorers. Mahomes and Lamar Jackson were 1 and 2 on the week. That's why you invest highly in them. It hasn't really panned out all that great up to this point. You know, there have been some ups and downs, but you know what? Let's take a look at it. Those 4 guys, they were 4, I think they were the first 4 quarterbacks drafted. They're the top 4 quarterbacks in scoring right now. So, you know, it feels like it hasn't quite worked out because they haven't had as much of an elite edge as they did last year. But it's still been pretty darn good. And, man, especially for Mahomes, it was great to see that blow-up week. I talked about it just on the last recap that there hadn't been that blow-up game from him yet. And he goes out and he puts up a weekly MVP performance of 38.1. So that's really good to see from him. And now we'll get Peter in here now. And we'll get into the matchup breakdown. Peter is connecting to the audio. I always like to point that out for whatever reason when people are doing that. How are you doing?
Can you hear me?
I can. How are you doing?
I'm pretty terrible.
Yeah.
I've been in a pretty dark place the last couple hours.
Yeah.
My nerves are just frazzled from the last week, and you know, I may be a little more harsh, a little more critical of some managers and players tonight, including my own, and you know, maybe it'll be a little more therapeutic for me.
Yeah, I'm sure you're fired up. And hey, first off, I want to say that I give you credit for even doing this because I know if it was the Yankees in your position, I would not be doing this shit right now.
I think part of it is that I'm trying to stay up as long as I can because I have to wake up with the reality that it's over, and that's a pretty sad thing to say, but
It is.
You know, I said I'd show up, and I'm here, and so, you know, this isn't a therapy session. It's not a baseball podcast, so you know, we can get into it.
All right. Yep. Let's get right into it. And, you know, of course, we're going to start with your matchup because it was the matchup of the week.
That sucks too.
So Nordiff takes Peter down 162.35 to 153.78. And, you know, I'm going to get on my soapbox here for a second and go ahead and say that matchups like this are why the second matchup is a thing. You know, Peter, this 153.78, this was the 8th highest scoring performance by anybody all season. And he lost. He was already the second person to lose as the second highest scoring team in a week. Sam did it against Mecca a few weeks back. So, yeah, I mean, that's why you have that in place, and at least you were able to go 1-1. But I'm sure it had to be frustrating for you in a week where you had all those buys. Your team still puts up a great week, and somehow you couldn't go 2-0.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be the first to admit I haven't been the best manager to my team this year, and that includes this week. Bad quarterback decisions, some bad flex decisions. Last week was such a big week for me against Krieger, knowing that I had these buys coming up and I was facing Matt, and put up a stinker. And the Phillies have kind of consumed my life a little bit the last 3 weeks, and maybe this team's been neglected a little bit. Didn't give them a chance. I'm okay. I was fine with the approach I took. Kind of hedging against the McCaffrey injury being possible, and just picking up Akers, and rather than taking Zach Moss, who Krieger's still trying to peddle. So I was fine with this spot, and and my guy showed up for me. I didn't give him a chance, and everyone played well. I mean, I was projected for like 100 points, and they gave me a chance on Monday night against just what's been a juggernaut this year.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, you outdid your projection by over 50 points.
Crazy.
It is, yeah. It's insane, and it really, what makes it even crazier is that it wasn't some like defense kicker nonsense. You only got 14 combined out of those two spots. It was just that really everybody else showed up. You get a good game from Kirk, good game from Gus Edwards, really a great game from Gus Edwards. And then all those receivers just solid. McLaurin, Pittman, Palmer, obviously Kelsey with the monster, which he was due for one of those. Yeah. And hell, even Cam Akers, I give you credit for you plugged him in. You picked him up off the street, and Cam Akers actually led that Vikings backfield in touches. So you might have something there now, and you got good production out of him this week.
It's crazy. Yeah. So yes, this was the first Kelsey takeover game, which was awesome to see. And Akers, I mean, geez, like he had a nice screen pass from Cousins that he got tackled on like the 2-yard line, maybe. Yeah. Like he takes that all the way. I win this matchup. That's 10 points. Like I got both ends of that. So just it's crazy. Yeah, like I got what I needed out of everybody. My receivers and Palmer, and yeah, it sucks. It sucks. Yeah. It's a good week.
Yeah, it's it is too bad to not get the main matchup win, but just promising signs. I mean, Palmer here, this is really, really good because Quentin Johnston, it's pretty much becoming clear that he doesn't really have it. He sucks.
Yeah, guy sucks.
Yes. So Palmer's going to be the number 2 there. And that's a good role. So
Yep.
Smith and Jigba, finally a big game from him with DK Metcalf out, and Tyler Lockett is kind of fading. So, man, I mean, Smith and Jigba could have that classic rookie season second half explosion. So suddenly your team, which had like no depth, you got to feel pretty good about having and hell, Josh Downs.
I know Downs was good too.
You've got 4, maybe even 5 receivers, depending on what happens with Smith and Jigba and Downs for the duration of the season. You've got 4, maybe 5 guys that you can go to.
Yeah, and it's it's that classic problem of having like too many guys for not enough slots of all just like wide receiver 2s and 3s.
Yes,
and
yeah, they're all comparable.
Hopefully guys separate themselves, but like I need Higgins to like
I forgot you had him.
Be one of those guys, like
I forgot you had him.
I have to be able to decide between 2 players, not 3. Like it's truly 3 spots that like can get shuffled right now.
Yeah.
but not the worst problems to have.
No, no, you want depth, and if nothing else, maybe you finally can make a trade with Krieger, but
Oh,
do you want?
I gotta
He's
call
not.
this out too. I talk about letting my team down. I fucked up so bad. Not swapping out the Miami defense against the Eagles for the Buccaneers against Atlanta, and it worked out for me.
Yeah, it's
That's
funny.
that's on me. Um, yeah, I wanted to make sure I mentioned that. That was like borderline finable.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, that is some malpractice from
I
you that
did.
I didn't even pick
I
up
feel
on.
like Lohan started like the Dolphins in some like really inopportune matchups, like maybe last year, and it worked out for him. I'm trying to
I
remember.
He definitely was riding whatever
That ring a
defense he
bell.
had for a while, and
Yeah.
there were weeks they were projected for like two, and they'd find a way to get 7 or 8. It's crazy things happen. So this was where we started with the losing team, but it made sense because it's you. Now we'll move over to the winning side with Nordiff, and obviously matchup MVP is Lamar Jackson, who
Great.
he's had some big games this year. This is his third time topping 30, and he's had some terrible games too. I mean, he's had the 2 games under 15 where it's been a little bit crushing, but man, you got to say at this point that Nordiff's investment in him is working out.
Yeah. Yeah, the early pick. What do you have him at? Like 20, 24, 25,
26.
26.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is why you pick someone like him. He's got a collection of just explosive
Yeah.
guys that can just go off, and it's a well put together starting lineup.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Like, there's so much upside in Jackson, Hill, Keenan Allen, and I said
Yeah.
it last week that I was dead wrong about ETN. I didn't think there was
Yeah.
upside there really. There's been immense upside
It's been
with
solid.
ETN.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a team that like can do no wrong, like Thielen just going
Yeah,
off.
yeah,
Got a good
Thielen.
start out of like McLaughlin a couple weeks ago. Like just
Hmm.
whatever's getting put in there is got some secret stuff.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's a good team that's not only been good but also been firing on all cylinders where everybody's going off. To be the highest scoring team 3 times in 7 weeks, that's damn impressive. To be in the top half of scoring each week through the first half of the regular season, that's not easy to do. Nordiff right now, um, pretty clearly the top team, and
Yeah,
I do. The record. If everyone played everyone every week, my favorite thing. He's 66-11. That's
that's
that's insane.
shocked he's not undefeated. It just feels like every week he's
It
putting up a
does.
big number. And
Yeah.
just wait for this team to get Leonard Fournette and Kyler Murray back. It's
Yeah, yeah. Leonard Fournette when he signed.
got
I
some
saw
horses
that.
coming.
I saw the thing. Leonard Fournette has drawn some interest from teams, according to this RotoWire update. But yeah, no,
But he
Kyler Murray.
has.
No joke. Kyler Murray might be a legitimate trade chip in a few
Yeah,
weeks, depending on when he actually gets back onto the field.
yeah,
Because we know he's going to be a top 10 quarterback.
could be. Yeah, I mean, he kind of. I think that like Lamar Jackson excitement wasn't wasn't really there last year, but he was still like a solid QB1.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. He has a high floor.
Yeah,
Now, the only question I would have with Kyler Murray is he's coming back from a significant injury. He's had a few injuries at this point in his career. Is it possible that the rushing is really capped?
yeah,
And if that's the case, then his value does take a significant hit. But if you're Nord, if it is what it is, Kyler Murray could come back and be the worst player in the NFL. It's not going to really mean anything to him.
Yeah.
It's just extra at this point.
Yeah,
But yeah,
it's just a him kind of pick.
yeah, it
Which
is.
we love
It
to
is.
see.
And hey, you know what? Let's say it. Kareem Hunt. He's had a couple of 3 touchdowns the last 2 weeks. He might be leading
Yeah,
that backfield the next few games with Jerome Ford out. So
yeah,
I mean, it's funny has that worked out? I don't know. Kareem Hunt's been pretty miserable real life. He's averaging 3.2 per carry, but he's fantasy viable right now. So yeah, things working out for Nordic without a doubt. But we'll move on to Mecca against Krieger now, and this was a big matchup for Matt. It was kind of a must have 1-1, and you felt kind of like he needed a 2-0 with the way things were going. And he gets the 2-0, 130.89 to 113.21. And for Mecca, it was all about his pass catching because he didn't really get anything from quarterback or the 2 running back spots. Matchup MVP, I guess you give it to Mark Andrews or Puka if you want. Both of them scored about the same, roughly 22, 23 points. Mike Evans continued his great season. And Matt did this with Derrick Henry on bye and with all those other injuries to his running backs. And
yeah,
this was a really nicely timed 22 points from Dustin Hopkins,
yeah,
which Matt
yeah.
picked him up. That was the ad of the week. He just picked him up
Oh,
this
did he
past
really?
week. Yeah. He picked him up this past week, and Hopkins went nuts. I mean, he made, I believe it was 3 50-plus yard field goals. He was just so good for Cleveland in that game. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean
Matt, Matt's team is so strange. Just
this could be
the up and down.
the future owner of Kyler Murray here. He
He
he kind
could
of
be.
got backed into a corner with the Richardson injury, which sucks.
Yeah, yeah,
And Jones hasn't been what he's needed him to be. Henry's been up and down. Um, but like this week is was kind of a microcosm of who Matt's team has been. You know, it's like Nakua showing up and Evans having a pretty good year through and through. Adams has been kind of weird.
he has.
He's been a little banged up, right?
He has. And he's also been victimized by the fact that
Yeah. QB
Garoppolo has
banged up.
played
Yeah.
basically half the season. But that's to be expected. And frankly, it's something I didn't put
Stayed
much
away.
stock into the fact that that was inevitable, like a Garoppolo injury, and then you're you're stuck with these nobodies. Like, how is Brian Hoyer still starting games
Crazy.
in 2023?
Crazy.
Uh, but and Jacoby Myers too. That has eaten into Adams. He's been really
Crazy. Yeah,
a
that's
big red zone factor. I mean,
been huge for Leroy.
it has, and we'll talk about that shortly. But yeah, you look at like Mecca's draft, and God, I'm sure there are some things he would do over. He can't be really all that happy with any of, well, with 3 of his first 4 picks. When you look at Adams, Henry, and Aaron Jones, he would probably do all 3 of those over if he could.
Yeah, I'm pretty surprised to see Adams at wide receiver 10.
Well, he had a
He,
40-plus point week.
I know. I'm surprised to see him as far back as number 10, knowing that. Yeah, he just hasn't
Well,
been good the last month.
yeah, I
That's
mean,
pretty
you
crazy.
got 4 games of 12.7 or less.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
gave you that one monster, but outside of that, it's been pretty disappointing.
Yeah. And Nakua, I mean, where would he be
It's un-
without Nakua? You know?
yeah, no, it's unbelievable what he's done, and
And it,
he's been the opposite of Adams because he's been all consistency basically 5 weeks of 20 plus.
yeah. Yeah. And it's added necessary depth for him
Yeah,
to be able to put up a 130 while missing all these guys. But, you know, he's he's in the territory where he can't make that many mistakes anymore.
No, though, him and Sam, both of them have good rosters. Both of them are 6-8.
Yeah.
There's almost no look. I've been wrong about a bunch of things I've said. I thought Larar's season was over. Now it looks like he's like a postseason lock. The ESPN playoff percentage has him at like 75%. I think it's going to be tough for both Sam and Mecca to both make it. It feels like they're both kind of fighting for a 5-6 seed kind of spot, and we'll see who does well over the next few weeks. But
Yeah,
yeah, Matt, this was
it could be
well
lining
worth.
up for that first big rivalry clash between Matt and myself in week 14 or whatever it is
You're right.
to possibly decide a playoff spot.
Yeah, you currently hold that 6 seed, and you're going to be fighting with those teams,
Yeah.
as well as obviously Larar in your division, and it's going
Yeah.
to be interesting down the stretch for sure. But yeah, if you're Matt, you just got to be happy that you came away with a 2-0 week when you put out the roster you did. Craig Reynolds and Geno Smith disappointing, and now you're going
Yeah.
to get some guys back. You hope that Henry can be a little more consistent. There are also Derrick Henry trade rumors, and that could end up. That's a legitimate X factor for this team, because let's say Henry gets sent to a good spot like Baltimore. I mean, that would be like match made in heaven.
That'd be awesome.
If
That'd be
Henry got
crazy.
sent somewhere like there, because Matt also has Tajay Spears.
For yeah, Jesus
So
Christ.
it would be huge if that happened,
Yeah.
and we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
Coming up on the NFL trade deadline, I can't remember if it's next week or the week after, but
Week 8, I want to say.
it's after week 8, so
Yeah, I
that's
want to
that's
say.
basically in a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge looming thing for his team,
Hmm.
but we'll see. All right, as for Krieger, man, this was, you talk about it being a big 2-0 for Mecca. This was huge for him to get the second matchup win by like
Yeah.
0.3 of a point over Lohan, especially when you're starting Sam Howell and getting 12 points out of him.
Kyler Murray,
Krieger,
Canada.
his team is what it is. It's McCaffrey is awesome. Pacheco's been really good,
Mm-hmm.
and you just try to get solid production, and that's what he got. He got the Michael Thomas touchdown, which was his first of the season. It's amazing how consistent he's been.
Yeah,
He
great
scored,
floor.
yeah, he scored between 9.3 and 13.2 every game. He is like the definition of a low end flex.
Yeah.
And you're hoping that Deontay Johnson can be kind of that. A little bit better, I would think you would want. Olave's been disappointing, and now Olave was arrested for going 2 times the speed limit in a neighborhood.
Yeah, what
That's
clown.
that's not going to matter, but
Did you
just
see
worth
the
noting.
like the
Yeah, I play
the
for the
police
Saints.
video?
Yeah, and okay, yeah,
It's
go
like
ahead.
it was like somehow like probably like 10 minutes into this incident, he
Yeah,
it dawned on him to throw that out.
yeah, that was like his last ditch.
That was the
Like,
last ditch.
yeah, what an
Already in
idiot.
cuffs.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Yeah, he's
you
standing
kind
there
of
with
got to start
cuffs.
there and then try to
Yes.
walk your way back.
Yeah, what a fool.
Yeah.
Maybe he thought he was going to get recognized. Who knows? Kittle was solid. I don't even know what to say about Kittle. It's so weird. Like he
Yeah,
should be.
that's the most mundane Kittle line you'll see all season.
Yeah, he usually scores either
13
3
points.
or 39. He doesn't usually give you a 13, and it was a huge 13 on Monday night.
Yeah, needed them all.
Yeah, and McCaffrey, he came through. He's playing injured. He wasn't all that great. 3 yards a carry.
Yeah.
but he ends up with 2 touchdowns, and
Yeah.
that works, and that's him. He's just a touchdown machine. What's he got now? 11 on the year. And yeah, having a guy like McCaffrey gives Krieger a chance in every single matchup. And if Olave can get going, this team becomes scary. But as currently constructed, it's just kind of what it's been. High floor with really, really limited ceiling. He needs someone in that wide receiving group to step up. But
Yeah, it's just kind of patchy. I mean, it's a team come playoff time, like you don't necessarily want to see, because they could have those explosive like 140s, or like just be a total dud. And
yeah,
like he's got to like figure out the QB position first and foremost, and then just
without a doubt.
hope someone pops. I mean, to start two receivers on the same
on,
team,
on the same bad offense.
and the team being the Saints, yeah, it's just
Yes,
wild.
it
and
is.
it's
Yeah.
and it I mean, he got away with it this week, but it's yeah, that's not sustainable.
No, I would hate doing that so much every week. There would be no point when I would want to do that.
Crazy.
And then there's attachment to a pretty iffy Pittsburgh offense as well in Johnson. He doesn't have a receiver that he could go to that's in a good offense. I mean, Tyler Boyd, he's not going to be a thing now that
No.
Higgins is back, and Jameson Williams isn't going to be a thing either, because clearly he sucks. I think he's
Yeah.
just one of those classic. He can beat you deep, and he's going to have a flashy play once a month, but that's about it. That's what Jameson Williams appears to be. So
Yeah.
yeah, there are holes here. I think as currently constructed, Krieger has no chance of winning the league, but crazier things have happened. And if you get yourself in, and he's 9-5, so he's got a damn good chance of doing that. If you get
Hmm.
yourself in, anything could happen.
Yeah.
All right. We'll go to the closest matchup of the week. Dylan 114.48 to 112.97 defeats Lohan. What a devastating 2 losses for Lohan here. But first, we'll go to Dylan, because this was a massive 2 wins for him. Like
Yeah.
these were like a season defining matchup, because it impacted both this matchup and the second matchup for the week. Obviously, Mahomes, you got to start there. He was not only the matchup, but also the weekly MVP with 38.1. And I said it in the introductory headline that you weren't on here for, but this was what I was looking for, because Mahomes had not done this yet. Mahomes had not had one of these games yet this year. He'd just been really just consistent, solid. You wanted it to come, and man, did it come at a perfect time for Dylan.
Yeah. I agree. He wasn't like giving you the premium that you paid for. And we talked about Kelsey having his first takeover game, and
Mm-hmm.
obviously there's a high correlation with Mahomes having his first takeover game,
Exactly. Yeah.
and that was
And
enough for him.
and it's crazy, because you look at the rest of this Dylan roster this week, and it's like nothing to be excited about. Nobody
Yeah.
else scored over 13.5 points.
Yeah, I
It's
mean no one except for Eckler like truly under, like everyone did
Yeah,
enough
and
to
that's a
keep him
big thing
afloat.
too.
And you're not going to win one matchup, let alone two, with 114 every week. But when you have someone getting the 38, you can get away with it.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right. Not having any of those disastrous like 1.8 points, that's a big deal too. And sometimes it's overlooked how important that could be. But
Yeah.
yeah, Eckler, I don't really know what went on there. 5.6. Somehow he only had 1 reception. That's
Yeah, I don't
shocking.
know what those touches were like. 14 carries still.
Yeah, he also he was limping a little bit on the sideline early in that game. I don't know if he maybe re-aggravated that ankle. It's going to be interesting to see in practice. I haven't seen any reports that he's in danger of missing time, but I don't know that he's fully healthy, and he might have tweaked something in that game that would explain some of the poor performance. Kenneth Walker was solid. He's been great. He's had a fantastic season. Charbonnet was out. He ends up with 26 carries, which was easily a season high. And yeah, I mean the rest of the team, nothing really that remarkable. Brandon Ayuk, pretty disappointing output with Debo out. It was really strange to see how much Ray McLeod and Jawan Jennings were involved. Yeah, Ayuk to only end up with 6 targets with Debo out. That's
It was a weird
really
game.
it was,
It
yeah,
was a
it
weird game
was.
for them.
DJ Moore was fine. He just PPR'd his way
Yeah, those guys were
to
fine. That's what they were this
Devontae
week.
Devontae Smith was not fine. And Devontae Smith has, I said it
He's not been
last
great.
week,
Yeah.
since the AJ Brown just piss fit, Devontae Smith has been awful for fantasy.
Yeah.
He has done nothing. He 4 out of the last 5 weeks in single digits. And it is what it is. Like you have to keep starting him because he's a great player in a great offense. And he could easily in this next game go 5 for 150 and 2. There's nothing you can do about this. It's the frustration of owning the number 2 in an offense because they can go through stretches like this. AJ Brown is playing out of his mind right now, and Dallas Goedert has been more involved recently. And so there's just nothing left over for Smith.
Yeah, it felt like last year more so he and Brown went back and forth with big games and Brown just having a couple more of them. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, Brown's just been on such a fucking tear the
Yeah,
last month plus. That you're right, there's not a lot left over. They haven't needed them.
no. And it's hard to you look at the difference in who these guys are. Like AJ Brown is this freak of nature, just massive human being, impossible to tackle. If I'm the quarterback, that's the guy I'd be looking to
Yeah,
as well. And I love Devontae Smith. I think he's an
yeah.
incredible route runner. I think he seems like a great guy. Seems like
Mhm.
a way better guy than AJ Brown. And so it's no knock on him. It's just, hey, if I'm the quarterback and I'm under duress and I have my choice, I'm gonna toss it up to AJ Brown. And if I'm the offensive coordinator and I gotta scheme something, I'm gonna scheme something to AJ Brown because he is a fucking brick shithouse.
Yeah,
But
he's watching him after the catch is awesome.
it's ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah.
But
It's Debo-esque.
it is. It is. I think better days are ahead for Smith. It's a little bit crazy that he's the wide receiver 29, especially with the way his season began the
Yep.
first game and a half when he was just unreal. But yeah, for Dylan, you love to go 2-0 here, and 8-6. He's in a good spot. Whereas if he had scored 3 points less, he'd be 6-8, and he'd be right in that mess of you, Sam, Mecca, Horvath. Not at all where you want to be. Lohan
Yeah.
is kind of beneath that mess, and his season is in real danger now at 5-9. And he
Yeah.
did make a pretty significant mistake. Uh, I it was a tough call. It was a coin flip.
Yeah.
I don't know what most people would have done. I would have stuck with Foreman. I would have stuck with Foreman this week. He had the 15 carries. good matchup against Vegas. I would have stuck with him. Now, I sure as hell wouldn't have thought he was going to do what he did, but not starting Foreman, going with Jalen Warren or even Christian Watson, if you want to say that, that ends up costing him 2 wins.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't realize this was a sit decision he had. Yeah, I mean, guess Watson would be a good matchup against Denver, but
Mm-hmm.
he hasn't really given me anything this year. Warren's been pretty important to Lohan to give him like
He
10
has.
points each week.
Yeah, he's been really
So
solid back end
I,
running back too.
I get that. Yeah, that's tough though. That is
It was a
tough.
t- it was a tough call. I'm not, by no means am I here saying, "Oh, what an idiot. How could he have
Yeah,
done this?" It's more, it was a 50-50 call to me, and it didn't go the right way, and it ends up being extremely costly.
yeah.
Especially you got good production out of your big guys
The
too. Hurts,
stars. Yeah,
Barkley, Hawkinson. Who didn't perform again?
your guy.
And yeah, absolute night, like Calvin Ridley. This is
Crazy.
terrible.
31 points they put up.
Yeah,
Got one
yeah.
catch.
How did he have one catch? I didn't
How many
watch any of
targets did
that
he get?
sewage game, so I couldn't even tell you.
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah, 4 targets.
Zay Jones has been out. It's just, I don't
Well,
know.
your
I don't know what the deal is, but
team's 5-2. Like
yeah,
all the peripherals are good, and it's just been weird.
I
It's
know.
just been Christian Kirk, you know,
Yeah, Christian Kirk has
and the guy.
dominated. And Evan Ingram, hey, we didn't even talk about him with Dylan because he did his Evan Ingram unspectacular, but you love to have it at the tight end position thing. Evan
Yeah,
Ingram gets the same 7 to 8 target. He's gotten between 7 and 8 targets each of the last 6 weeks, Evan Ingram. So Evan Ingram's there. He basically goes 5 for 50 every week. Christian Kirk gets 10 targets, and it leaves 5 to 10 for Ridley, and he just hasn't really been cashing in on them. And 2
yeah,
touchdowns is an issue. But even more than that, we're looking at 5 out of 7 games, Calvin Ridley, 40 or less yards receiving. I don't know. And I haven't paid enough attention to him to be able to tell you, for all I know, he might just not be the same guy that he was. Let's remember, he basically missed 2 seasons. That's not that easy to come
yeah.
back from.
It's true. 2 years
So,
is so long in the NFL.
yeah, yeah,
So long.
God.
It's a
And
lifetime.
he wasn't even that great the last time we saw him in
Mm-hmm.
2021. Now, he was
Yeah, it was
dealing with
weird.
some things. He ended up
Was it
stepping
the
away for mental health reasons.
Oh yeah. Jeez, yeah, he's been all over the map. Was it the year before that that he had his huge year that you had him?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
2020.
Hmm.
He was fantastic. Then 2021, Dylan picked him real early, and he was terrible.
The mental's
Uh,
gone.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the gambling too, degenerate
Yeah,
gambling.
that's a pretty lethal combo.
It sure
Usually
is.
those run in the same direction.
They do. They do, and they can really ground you. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, Ridley, I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. We know he has the ability to be a great player. He's shown it, but is he still that guy? He hasn't shown anything this year to lead me to believe that, but we'll see. He's got Pittsburgh and then a bye week, but man, Lohan, he invested highly in him. 3rd round pick. He picked him
I was
to
gonna say,
be.
yeah, you've talked about like Lohan being someone who went out and got his guys, and Hurts has been fine too, but Ridley just gotta feel awful about
Yeah,
sticking your neck out for.
yeah, yeah, and it's cost him. It really has. This week, obvious what it cost him. He'd be 7-7 if Ridley even scored 3 points this week. So
It's almost everything.
it is. It is. That was a great matchup, and it's tough. I really like the second matchup. I think it's
Yeah,
a good thing. But the downside of it is this. Like,
Yeah, it's awesome that this one teetered on like both both
yeah,
uh both matchups.
it's pretty devastating to lose
Oh,
essentially two games by 1.51. Like
yeah.
that's crushing.
So that's
And
that's so awful.
especially too, like it'd be one thing if he was facing Nordiff, right? A team that he's not really competing with in the standings. No, this was against Dylan and against Krieger, two teams that if he had gotten those two wins, like just think, Lohan could be 7-7, Dylan might be 7-7, Krieger might be 8-6, but instead, here Lohan is 4 games back of Krieger instead of potentially one. Like the swings
Yeah.
of this alone, his
League
playoff
altering.
probability, yeah, it is. It seriously is. I know it's only 1 week, but like this was huge. And someone had to come up unlucky, and it was unfortunately Lohan. All right, we'll move along to my matchup. Horvath 126.8 defeated me 105.99. And this was, you want to talk about big time coming through in the clutch. Horvath's team going 2-0 to
Had to have
keep
it.
him in the race. Uh, Matchup MVP, the Monday night, just monstrous performance, 31.3 from Jordan Addison. And this was kind of like Dylan's team, where you had that one huge showing, and then nobody else, no one killed you. Cooper Cup kind of did, laying an egg, but the rest of the team was just solid. And Horvath comes away with a 2-0 week when he was desperate for one.
Yeah, he was solid. There was some fun Sunday night dramatics between Swift and Brown on your side, and
Yeah.
then Addison made it much less dramatic.
Yes, and early.
Yeah, and
The end. The dream
I
was
mean,
dead early.
what a huge win against what was an 11-1 team.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, and that.
crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, he got kind of a shell of my team,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't want
Yeah,
to take it away. I don't want to take it away from Horvath. He put up 127. He deserved every bit of this 2-0.
played well enough to win. Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence, it was his best game of the year, which is, well, actually his second best. He had 20.15 in week 1, 20.1 here. It's
Yeah, no
kind of sad
Debo.
that that's the case, but uh,
Yeah.
it is what it is. He's a weekly back end QB1. And Ramondre Stevenson, this is nice. Some signs of life here. 18 in week 6, 14 and a half this past week. Horvath needs him. That's just obvious. And hey, it was the
Yeah.
pass catching that came back. I said
Hmm.
2 weeks ago, what the hell happened to the pass catching?
Yep.
He had caught 5 passes in a 4 game
Hmm.
stretch. Then these last 2 weeks, 5 receptions, 6 receptions. So I don't know. I don't know what to think about that, but that's what made Ramondre good last year was the pass catching. And he needs it this year, especially since that offense is
Yeah.
just awful. And
Yeah.
you got Ezekiel Elliott stealing touchdowns. Like if Ramondre isn't catching passes, he's going to blow, and that's what we've seen this year.
Yeah. I don't
But
know how that offense put up 29 against the Bills.
yeah,
And it was definitely to his benefit.
the
But
Bills have some issues.
they
But
do. They do.
Cooper Cup, that's even more impressive for Horvath to overcome getting just 6.9 out of him.
Yeah,
That's
and
got
he
to,
I mean he came on for those first 2 weeks and didn't miss a beat.
yeah,
Um so this was his first kind of like back to earth game, I guess. and it was Puka who benefited. I mean,
It was.
you know, team only put up 17 points. So that's going to happen. But yeah, didn't need him today.
I wonder if that's like Cup's worst fantasy performance in the last 3 seasons. It wouldn't surprise me if it is.
Yeah, I mean, how many targets did he have? It might have been like
7
that might have been a career low target share with
with
Stafford as
Stafford.
QB.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
probably was. Probably was. Tutu Atwell caught it was funny. They said on the broadcast that Tutu's one reception, which ends up being a 31-yard touchdown, they thought the pass was intended for Cup in the end zone, but Tutu came away with it. So that would have changed. That would have changed Cup's
Yeah,
outlook, but it ended up benefiting Horvath
that's fine.
anyway. Tutu, if you're Horvath, you can't really start him anymore. He's had
Yeah,
2 or less catches 3 straight weeks.
yeah, yeah. He needs Devo to get healthy because
He does.
he's got fucking nothing else on his bench.
He
Jesus
has
Christ.
nobody. Yeah.
Holy
Yeah,
shit.
this has become without a doubt the
My God.
thinnest team in the league.
He might have to start 2 defenses.
Yes. Yes. I'm sure he would gladly put Dallas DST in the flex spot if he could over some of these other
Crazy.
scrubs.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
My God.
Swift had an iffy game too, but it is what it is. He's been so damn good and just rock solid. He hasn't scored in single digits since week 1.
Yeah.
Amazing. I
Yeah, he's
I
been
did
great.
not think that an Eagles running back would do that, and here we are.
It was crazy. I like 2 carries in week 1. It was all Gainwell. And we really haven't seen Gainwell since. I mean,
No,
Gainwell missed
yeah,
week 2, and that
and
was
that
it.
was it.
It
And
was a
and
close case.
I give that staff credit for sticking with the hot hand and not trying to force Gainwell back in there. Gainwell
Yeah.
still gets some, and he actually vultured a touchdown on
Hmm.
Sunday night. But look, DeAndre Swift's been really good. He's averaging 5.1 per carry, so he
Yeah. I
should be
mean,
playing.
credit to whoever, took a shot at this Eagles backfield in the draft. I mean,
Yeah.
Rashad Penny got drafted in every league, and
Yes.
I can't remember seeing him on the field
No,
in an
no,
Eagles
he basically
uniform
has
this
not
year.
played. No.
He's like not even active
It's amazing. Yeah.
games. Um,
He's nobody to them.
yeah, so you just as easily could have picked that guy and justified in your
Yes.
mind on draft night. So
Yeah.
credit to Horvath.
Yes. All right, we'll shift over and this was the first real disappointing week for me. The first time my team scored under 118. And it's kind of weird how it happened. Yeah, no Metcalf, no Montgomery. That hurt, especially on a team with a
Yeah.
lack of depth. And I had to start 2 essentially nobodies. And one of them worked out in Daryl Henderson, who was my 3rd highest scoring player this week with 13.6. And one of them went horribly with Keontae Ingram, who did not register an offensive snap, which is just hilarious. That Arizona, like, last week, and I keep saying last week, it's basically 2 weeks ago now.
Yep. Can you? I
Should be
didn't hear
back.
you say.
Yes, my AirPod disconnected. I got the other one in.
Uh,
All
I
right.
was waiting
Disaster
on
averted.
what
But
you were gonna say about
that
Arizona last
Arizona
week.
backfield was hilarious because everyone was on Amari DiMercado 2 weeks ago. He does nothing. Then everybody drops him, understandably. And then it was all DiMercado. He had something like 80, 85% of snaps. So
I don't know what that is, especially because like Ingram and Damian Williams were decent in the game where they played. It's not like they were awful. And then the coaching staff just made a decision that, fuck them. We're not going to play those bums anymore. And I certainly took one there, but uh, spoiler alert: Keontae Ingram is going to be dropped in about 3 years for somebody.
I don't know. Next week might be his week.
Well, that's
Wow.
that's why it's so like Amari DiMercato is a waiver wire option again this week. But how do you have any trust in that being a thing? It might not even be Ingram. Maybe it's Damian Williams next week. So
Yeah,
that's
and
just
I will say it's awesome and probably unhealthy that you're back in the Darrell Henderson game.
yeah,
Um,
it is
we've
hilarious.
we've had our mental struggles with him
I
over the
know.
years,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and now he's back
yeah, yeah. He was
until
on the
maybe
high
until
early.
maybe this weekend. There's no way of knowing.
I basically have to start him this weekend.
Yeah,
So, and maybe it'll be Royce Freeman
right.
or Zach Evans. Yeah, maybe Miles Gaskin, who they have on roster.
What a
But
collection! What a collection of running
yeah,
backs that is.
they got to
I don't
bring
know how
Sony
they got
Michelle
those
back.
guys out of the woodworks.
It's they have all
It's
these random.
they must have had Nordic calling the shots.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I mean, what a running back duo I started this week in Raheem Mostert and Darrell Henderson. Uh, Two guys who I think I drafted in the late rounds of 2021.
Yeah.
Mostert rough game, and it had really nothing to do with him. He still averaged a 5 a carry, but he only gets 10 touches. Game script was bad.
Mm-hmm.
Herbert, awful game. And I'm a
Yeah,
little,
wasn't this game 17-24 at half?
yeah, yeah, they did not score in the second half.
Weird. He probably, yeah. I mean, what do you remember what he had at half? Points
Probably like,
wise?
probably like 11
Yeah.
because he only had the one touchdown. Uh, Josh Kelly had like a 40-yard touchdown run.
Mm,
Yeah, love to see that. But where was that when he had his opportunities to start and he did nothing?
yeah.
Anyway, uh, yeah, Herbert. He's been good. He's been real good for fantasy. He's been pretty bad real life, and I'm a little concerned about the loss of Mike Williams at this point because it's been 3 games and without Mike Williams, that is, and he really has not been good like real life in any of them, and his fantasy numbers were good against LA because he had 2 rushing touchdowns.
Mm.
And I mean, against Las
Yep.
Vegas, LV.
Yep.
Against Dallas, I don't know, like 21. It's not like you're thrilled about that. He was just solid. And then
Yeah.
those are two, let's also be fair, two really good defenses in Dallas and Kansas City. This upcoming week will tell quite a bit. If he has another bad game against the disgrace that is Chicago, it's going to be concerning as hell for me. But it's not like Herbert's going to be horrendous. It's just we saw Herbert last year be this. He would have these terrible weeks every once in a while, and it kind of screws you.
Yeah, you're so right.
It's tough to overcome sub 15 points. On the bright side, my 2 receivers continue to be just unbelievable.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
they're
It's like
2 and 3. We're talking over each other now.
yeah, I apologize.
That's
First podcast.
It's both of our fault. What were you going to say?
I was gonna say, like, the the Bills haven't really impressed anyone this year. Like
Mm.
Diggs seemed to take a step back last year, but like he just keeps putting in great performances, and it's with Gabe Davis putting in some solid numbers too, which is just kind of weird to me.
Yeah, no, you're right. And it's so interesting with Diggs because there have been a couple times this past game included where he could have like nothing in the third quarter and I have no concerns. I've gotten to that point with him where
Hmm.
I think he had like 3 at half. He might have had 5 deep in the third quarter and I was like it's fine. He's going to get his. It's going to work out. And he did. He had actually a pretty awesome like 25 to 30-yard touchdown reception where he spun away from a tackle. And is that sustainable doing it that way? No, but what is sustainable about him is he's had double-digit targets 5 out of 7 games. And
Hmm.
he's a big play guy. He finds his way into the end zone. He gives you everything you want. And if the Bills offense improves, that's only going to be good for him. And as far as AJ Brown goes, it's ridiculous right now. 125 plus yards receiving in 5 straight games.
Yeah, yeah, it's been quite the stretch.
Yeah,
Wide
yeah,
receivers 2 and 3.
yeah. They've been awesome, and they're everything I could have asked for. And Mostert's been everything I could have asked for. Montgomery, when on the field, has been, and we'll see. Tight end has been just the worst.
Yeah, yeah.
Another spoiler alert because this thing's going to go out at 2 a.m. So it's not like it's going to change Lerar, who's ahead of me in waiver order, if he even is awake. I want Dalton Kincaid, and I
Yeah.
don't know that he has. I don't know that it's going to work out. Obviously Knox being out helps, but I got to take the shot. I got to use my number 2 priority on that and take the shot because I can't keep getting 5 points a week out of my tight end.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you got nothing else to turn to. So, yeah, and I didn't realize Farnwith wasn't on your roster anymore either.
No, yeah, I'm done with that. I did pick him up this past week, but then I dropped him to get Daryl Henderson back. So
It's a fun experience.
it sure is. I can't do. I love Pat Fryermuth. I think
Yeah,
he's a really good player, but I'm just not
won me a matchup 2 years ago.
on a Monday night.
Yeah, that was awesome. Caught like 2 touchdowns or something.
Yeah, was that the same year that you had the Robert Tunyon game too?
Could have been. Maybe that was the year I like stayed afloat, and no, I think that was the year after.
Yeah, it wouldn't really make.
No, because did I have Kelsey the year I won it all still?
You did
Back-to-back years, yeah.
with
Yeah.
Kelsey and Eckler in 2020,
Yeah.
and Mike Evans for the playoffs.
Yeah. Yeah. Big late trade by me. Put up like 49 points or something.
Klingman has been involved in some massive late season trades over the years. There was also that one with James Conner that basically screwed him and sent Andrew.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, that's right.
And that's a good segue to go into Colin's matchup. Colin 108.32 to 91.65 over Sam. Colin gets a win. For a long time, it looked like he was going to get 2 wins, but then the San Francisco defense decided to absolutely bone him, as did Tua.
Yeah. Yep.
He ended up basically getting 12.5 points out of those 2 spots on Sunday and Monday night. Pretty brutal when the running backs were so good. But yeah, at least Colin got a win.
With all his buys too.
Yeah. I said on here, Colin guaranteed 0-2. He's going to be 1-13. No, not so fast. Yeah, no CD Lamb, no Garrett Wilson, no problem.
Yeah, second one in the bag.
Oh yeah. Jahmyr Gibbs matchup MVP. He was awesome with Montgomery out. The pass catching was there, and that's what you want to see. 9 catches. That was his thing. That was his thing out of college. He was an elite pass catching running back, and he got to put it on display. I would imagine it was a bunch of dump offs in what was a blowout, but Montgomery probably will sit out again this week, so you're likely to get another big Gibbs game against Las Vegas, and I don't know what it'll be over the back half of the season, but you worry about that when it comes. Jerome Ford, he had a fucking 60-yard touchdown run to open up the game.
Did he?
Yeah. And then he essentially did nothing else, and then he got injured. But yeah, Schefter is reporting that he's expected to miss a week or two. We'll see. Ford's been good.
Yeah.
Quality player, offense that likes to run the ball. And then, yeah, we already talked about it. Christian Kirk, wide receiver 15 now. Was he someone you even thought about drafting?
He was. I was directly between he and Pittman.
Okay.
Which I remember Sam being like, those were two guys I just never even noticed. And yeah, they're two guys very much on my radar.
That's funny. Yeah, no,
they're right there with each other too in the rankings.
Yes, yep. Kirk's been a little bit more consistent, but yeah, no, I was the same way as Sam. Like, I didn't want anything to do with these guys. I thought this is like the definition of no ceiling. They're going to be wide receiver 30. I'm never going to want to play them.
Yeah.
And that has not been the case because, well, for one, Kirk somehow has supplanted Ridley as the number 1. And 2, with Pittman, the Colts have just been throwing more than expected because it's been Minshew. And that's really kind of what it comes down to. But yeah, God, Kirk has been so fun to own this year.
Yeah, great pick.
Target numbers aren't amazing looking at it now. 6 or less targets 4 out of 7 games. That's concerning, but ride this while you can.
You gotta ride it. Yeah. Yep.
Drake London solid.
He's not too many times you can say that this year.
Yeah. Cole Kmet.
Actually, I take it back. He's had a pretty decent last month.
Yeah, London.
I mean, not what you draft him for, but he's kind of had a floor, and Riddler's been a little bit. Ritter's been a little better than he started out, which has been he's at least made hits usable. I know we're not there yet, but Jesus Christ.
Instead of being the worst quarterback in the NFL, he's merely been bottom 5.
Yeah.
And look, I'll give him some credit. He has mixed in a couple of decent showings. Has Ritter, but yeah, London's been a fine flex. Really, outside of that 1 target week 1. So, yeah, was he worth a 5th round pick? No, not at all. But he's at least a guy who's usable.
Yeah.
Cole Kmet, I want to say, if you're Colin, you gotta hate this guy, because the 2 times I believe he's started him for all 5 of his single-digit performances and benched him for the 2 massive games. I'm pretty sure that's what has happened.
I don't want to kill myself.
Just insane, but
that's wild.
This is the nature of the tight end position, unless you have one of those elite 3 or 4 guys.
what you signed up for.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's kind of brutal to have this weekly decision between him and Jake Ferguson because they're essentially the same person. And if it were me, I would be starting Ferguson most of the time because I would rather be involved with that offense. I don't know.
Yeah.
San Francisco defense, you got to hate that if you're calling because, like, if they gave him even 6 points, he would have won the second matchup.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's just he's just looking for any momentum to build heading into that losers bracket.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's fighting. He is fighting to avoid the dreaded loser bracket bye.
The double bye straight to
Yeah.
the last place game. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's a big race every year.
It is. And I mean, he could get himself out of that. So, but yes, as far as anything truly meaningful goes, Colin, that ship sailed a while back.
Yeah.
As for Sam, this was pretty devastating to go 0-2 and lose to Colin. And Sam's team is not in a good spot right now with you lose the number 1 overall pick. I don't care who you are or what your team is. That's not easy to overcome. And then especially too when you tack on a loss of Kyron Williams, who had been one of the arguably the steal of the draft.
Awful.
You lose those guys back to back. The other thing too, I mean, Sam just got boned by defense and kicker this week. They combined for 4.9. Brett Maher got released.
Yeah.
Brett Maher, by the way, let me just point this out. Brett Maher, kicker 4 on the season, was released.
Yeah.
Done. Because he missed like 6 kicks this season. He's been terrible. He was cut, but he's the kicker 4 anyway. Yeah, pretty, bad start-sit decision. It actually didn't end up costing Sam anything going Davis over Pickens. He still would have gone 0-2. But yeah, that was not the right call, obviously. And then, man, Josh Jacobs, like, are you kidding me? 5.1 against Chicago.
Yeah.
He needs Garoppolo back as much as Devontae Adams does.
Yeah, I forget. Did Sam was Jacob's first week? Was Sam week 4 or 5? I'm trying to look at his thing.
Sam got the 2 huge weeks. He got him week 4.
Yeah, and he's just kind of been stepping back, and I'm sure a lot of that is also quarterback play.
Yeah.
But like it's been kind of a lose-lose trade so far.
Outside of the fact that it did get Sam, at least that one huge performance. But Krieger got a huge one out of
Krieger got one too. Yeah.
But I think he still went 0-2. I don't remember.
It doesn't matter.
It's 1 a.m. Josh Jacobs, 2.9 yards per carry this season.
Yeah.
Wild.
Man. Yeah. What do you I can't imagine you've watched much Raider football.
I have not.
I mean, there was a lot of talk preseason about
not in shape.
Running backs coming off of like X amount of touches, usually doesn't go well.
That and then you hold out.
Yeah, and the holdout. Yeah, true.
And you're in a bad offense. Here's the thing to me with Jacobs. I'm not giving up because for one, he is still the running back 11. He's been fine.
Mm-hmm.
And his volume is incredible most weeks. And he gets 20 plus touches almost every week. So I think he's still fine. But he reminds me quite a bit of last year's Joe Mixon, which you had, I believe, right?
I did.
Like, this is what Joe Mixon was last year. He'd get
Yeah.
25 touches, turn it into 100 yards, and basically his week was determined by, did he score? If
Yeah.
he did, it was good. If he didn't, it was shit. And then every once in a while, he would have a monster game.
Yeah. Yeah. He had like a 55-point week last year.
Exactly.
That was like a quarter of his points.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Could Jacobs end up being kind of what Mixon was last year? Yeah, I think that's possible, and that's frustrating. But it still, I mean, if I was Sam, I would still, without a doubt, do the trade that he did.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. And Jacobs, like, if Williams is healthy, like, Jacobs giving you that like nice wide receiver 2 floor with or running back, blah blah blah, running back 1 upside, is great. But that's just not the situation Sam finds himself in right now.
Yeah, yeah, and by Williams you meant Kyron, because obviously Sam has Javonte Williams too.
Yeah, that guy stinks. That guy freaking stinks.
He does. Yeah,
And you know what? That's well, I don't want to circle back too much, but another 1-for-1 decision I made that went the wrong way was P. Ryan versus Mostert.
Yeah, that's
and
a dating one.
I largely picked P. Ryan because I thought Williams would stink.
Yeah.
And what I didn't account for was just how fucking bad Denver would be.
Sure. Yeah.
And Mostert's been great. That offense has been pretty fire, and there haven't been the mouths to feed that I thought there might be. You get HN making a cameo, and Jeff Wilson's not come back.
He'll probably be a thing for 2 weeks too.
Yeah, it's just that's just worked out so well, but I digress.
Yeah, no, and I'll say that with Javonte, I was very torn on him. I was thinking, like, I actually viewed him almost the exact same way that I viewed J.K. Dobbins, who I ended up drafting, where it was, if they get to the point where I'm okay with it, I really like them as a kind of a dart throw, because I believe in the talent of both of those guys. And yeah, it hasn't worked out for either of them for each, type of reason you want to come up with. Dobbins obviously got injured for the 90th time in his career, and Williams has battled both injury and horrible offensive situation. But
yeah,
I guess with Williams, you could have some hope that as the season goes on, he gets a little bit, further away from that devastating injury of a year ago. And he has gone over 5 yards per carry each of the last 2 weeks. It's just his offense is awful. And so there's like no touchdown opportunity. He doesn't really catch that many passes. And so he's just kind of what he is. He's a back end running back too, most weeks.
Yeah, he's stuck in game script purgatory.
Yes.
And that's just not going to change.
Infuriating. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, without Waddle being an upside guy thus far, like, this just feels like a middling team for Sam that's gonna put up a lot of what these guys put up this week, is like 12-17, 11-17, and it's not great.
Yeah, it's crazy because this team at full strength,
I know,
a monster. It's Sam at full strength with like good matchups would probably be projected for about 140.
Yeah.
And yet here we are. It's a team that is kind of stuck in a tough spot. But I think, if anybody's going to get themselves out of it, Sam he could find a way. He could pull off a trade. He could find a way. He's dug himself out of terrible situations before. And he did find a nice piece in Rashee Rice.
Mm-hmm.
he looks like a great low end 2, high end flex. Sam Laporta, yeah, the ceiling hasn't been there the last couple of weeks, but there's almost nobody I would rather have at the tight end position. And
Yeah,
so
I mean, if you can get 11 points out of a tight end consistently, like you're a set it and forget it, like you're happy.
especially when it was a guy you didn't even draft.
Yeah.
You'd be happy if that was the tight end you drafted in the 5th round, and instead it's a guy you picked
Yeah.
up.
If that was Darren Waller, you'd be like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Yes, absolutely. George Pickens has been pretty solid, and he's still had a couple, like 2 pretty bad games, but he's been a great flex. And yeah, I think with Sam, you're just hoping it all comes together because it still can. If you get a week where Allen, Jacobs, Waddle, all those guys perform, and you're still getting the floor from these other pieces that you
Yeah.
have off waivers, you're going to have a big week. It's just it hasn't all come together the last 2 times out, and Sam's 6-8 now, so he's on the outside looking in, but he's right in the mix, and things can turn very quickly. One more
Yeah.
matchup to get to, and it's Lerar defeating Andrew, 108.34 to 83.27. For Lerar, the matchup MVP was, unfortunately, Alvin Kamara, who scored 29.3 points, despite averaging 3.6 yards per carry and not scoring a touchdown. That's what happens when you catch 12 passes. Alvin Kamara now he's got 35 receptions for 177 yards, which is like 5 yards a reception.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just
It's nauseating.
it's
It's
terrible.
also awesome. Something about it is also awesome.
There is I agree. As much as I despise it, and I really do, it's funny. Like it's pretty hilarious. And man,
Yeah.
when you own one of these guys, and there were stretches last year where Ramondre Stevenson was one of these guys. He was having like 7 catches for 35 yards types of games. It's extremely satisfying.
Yeah. Feels like a cheat code.
Yeah, because you're watching your guy rack up points while doing nothing.
Yeah. And I mean, how many and I'm starting to see more of this on Twitter now too. Is like, here was, 1.2 fantasy points scored by these 2 running backs. And one guy's just like trucking a first down through like 5 guys, and then it's like a 2-yard catch.
I haven't seen that, but that's funny that's a thing. No, it's so true because I've started to try to get away from it because I used to love having those pure runners like a Nick Chubb. And I kind of wanted to draft Nick Chubb again this year. But it's like for Nick Chubb to get to 29.3, he basically has to run for 200 yards or end up with some massive 2-3 touchdown game.
Yeah, it's awful.
Kamara can do it this way with Derek Carr just slinging it out to him. What a terrible offense that is.
Yeah. Crazy.
But yeah, Kamara's been amazing. He's averaging 21.7 per game.
Yeah. It's been huge.
Yeah.
Both those guys, both those running backs.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor, I could tell you it was the first time in a long time to me as a Colts fan that he looked like Jonathan Taylor. He had a couple of those really nice classic runs, and there's pass game involvement too, which is not necessarily something that has been part of his repertoire, but Gardner Minshew loves checking it down. So that just adds to Taylor. Zach Moss is he's not going to go away, nor should he. I mean, he continues to run really well, so that's going to be annoying. But the Colts just they've been finding a way to feed both of them, and we'll see. The Colts have one of the things they have in their favor is a really favorable schedule after this week. You got Carolina, New England. You got some bum teams down the stretch too, like Las Vegas, Houston. Well, Houston's week 18, but Tennessee. I mean, there are some favorable matchups in here, and yeah, Taylor might work out, which is pretty funny.
Yeah. I mean, talk about just like big bets
Yeah,
that like big bets that were placed in fantasy football this year. And if it, like Lara had most of them,
I know.
Kamara and Taylor, and I mean, even throwing in like Najee Harris and Deshaun Watson, and obviously they haven't all worked out, but like, you know, what a crazy roster this was after the draft.
I know. And I mean, he started 0-4, and it looked like an absolute disaster. I thought he was so done. And here we are. And it's coming together, and it's kind of a beautiful thing to see, because this strategy almost never works out. This like really risk averse, I'm gonna take on all these chances. It almost never works. And somehow right now it is. And if we redrafted right now, like Kamara would he be a first round pick? I think he might be. He would sure as hell be going early second, if not.
Yeah, I mean, you're taking him over Josh Jacobs.
Yes. Yeah, you're taking him over Derrick Henry.
Yeah, yeah. Chubb's
Great.
right there. Pollard's been he's been right there with Pollard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah,
Jacoby Myers, another great game. He's the wide receiver 12 despite missing a week.
yeah. I don't. So weird because like we talk again about like terrible offense. Um, Devontae Adams, healthy, like
Yeah,
alive on the field, and Myers has sustained like solid production.
yeah, he's got 5 touchdowns, and he's kind of been a weekly. He's got 7+ catches 4 out of his 6 games played. I again, I already said it. I don't watch this team very much, but just by looking at his kind of yards per catch, I would imagine what's going on here is Adams is more the downfield guy, and they don't have a quarterback who's capable of making that work, whereas Myers is functioning in that underneath
Mm-hmm.
kind of safety valve role, and he's just he's kind of PPRing his way to respectability, and then he's been finding the end zone to end up with some big games.
Good theory. Yeah,
It's interesting. I mean, targets are great, 10 plus, 4 out of 6 games. It's impressive what Myers is doing. But yeah,
yeah,
Lamar's just got a bunch of really solid guys for PPR.
yeah.
You're gonna get Chase back this week. You're gonna
Mm-hmm.
get Mixon back this week, who hasn't been great, but he's volume. And you would imagine his 1 touchdown on the season that there's going to be regression upwards.
Yeah, as that team picks up a little bit of steam.
Yeah.
Same with Chase, of course. I mean,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Chase
Chase
had
has
a
been
50
very.
point game, but
Yeah, he's been sporadic, but I would think the consistency will arrive. So yeah, for Lara, what it's going to come down to is, will the quarterback and tight end work out? I've been questioning that. He had those couple of great weeks from those positions. Then this week it was back down again. You cannot trust Goff/Watson, and you cannot trust Pitts slash Schultz. And there are going to be weeks where he gets a combined 15 points from those two spots. And it's pretty hard to come back from that. But he basically did this week, and it was largely because he faced a dumpster fire on the other side, and that was Andrew's team.
Yeah.
Which Andrew got less than half a point out of two spots. And let's start with the Bijan Robinson thing, because this is like an all-time unlucky.
Yeah, what a fuck up.
I mean, this is just brutal. I mean,
yeah,
nothing comes out pre-game here. Nothing during the week. What can you do? Like, obviously, you're not, you got to start him. There was nothing to indicate this was going to happen. It's a shame for those who, I would imagine, most of the league, if not all of the league, knows. But basically what happened was Bijan wasn't feeling great, and he ended up with one touch. He played 11 snaps. And he tried to give it a go, and pretty quickly they realized, well, he doesn't have it today, and so they just went with Algier and Cordero Patterson. And Andrew is enraged, and he wants Arthur Smith to be,
wants his head.
He does. Andrew said there are going to be repercussions for this. I don't know what that means, but I'm interested to find out. Me, I don't care what unless there's a rule that says he needed to report this. To me, why would you? I mean, it's whatever. You're going to make him active anyway. So why should you have to say anything? It's one of those things. It's extremely unlucky, and it is what it is to me. It sucks.
Yeah, is it like if it's not a practice status, like
exactly?
It's a move, yeah.
Now, for all I know, there could be a rule that says, hey, if a guy shows up and he's iffy day of, you got to at least make that known. But I don't see why that would be a thing. I really don't see why that would be a thing, especially when you've decided you're going to make him active.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate, but it is kind of funny that it happened to Andrew.
Yeah, it's funny that I mean, when you had him on, he was lamenting, his 0-8 start and planning his funeral, and then he did get 4 wins in a row these last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he was feeling some hope. And
yes.
And then he put up 83 points. Yeah, it's just
yeah. And now at 4-10, it's going to be tough because right now, obviously, you're the 6th seed at 7-7. Let's just do some math here. Let's even say that 14-14 gets you in. That means he's got to finish 10-4.
Yeah.
And I don't think 14-14 would get him in. I think because he's probably going to be in bad point shape.
That's the tiebreaker.
Points scored. Yeah. I would think 15-13, maybe even 16-12. But let's say if it's 15-13, he's got to go 11-3. Like, that's not going to happen.
Jesus Christ, yeah.
So he's done.
No.
He's done.
Yep.
I'm declaring it over. Andrew, you're eliminated.
Stop the count.
It's out. You needed, and this was a golden opportunity to go 2-0. You needed 115 points to go 2-0.
Yeah.
What can you do?
Small.
Yeah.
He was small.
Amon-Ra, he tried his best. So did Darren Waller, who's quietly been good for a few weeks now. Darren Waller, tight end 5 on the season.
Yeah, I mean, geez, let's see how many points Stafford, Brown, and Waller combined for this total here. I mean, that's what, like 38.
That's like
61 points. Or did I miss a 10?
Yeah, it's about 60. Yeah, it's about 3.
61, 62 points.
Yeah.
So that's 75% of his scoring.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
Yeah, you get 2.32. Hey, Andrew, big proponent of the kicker position. He loves kick. 0. You got 0.
The goose
Out of
egg.
the offense.
Never even heard of it. Who's this Patterson guy? Is that a
He's
kicker?
Detroit's kicker.
He started the 29th ranked kicker. Jesus Christ.
He was feeling something. Andrew's going to love this segment. One thing I will say that's been unfortunate for Andrew is that it feels like every time he needs to go to Marquise Brown, it's been awful.
Mhm.
And then he's been on the bench for, I think, at least 3 of those 4 big games.
Mhm.
Mari Cooper, too. Wide receiver 44.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
Did he ever miss a game? He was like a
No.
no. Yeah,
No, he was supposed to miss that one game, but then he ended up
so I'm
playing.
trying to yeah.
But no, it's 3 games of 6.7 or less.
He's got 1 TD.
Yeah.
Targets are fine. Just
They haven't had
he's got
play.
6 catches on 16 targets the last 2 weeks. Yikes. Those are T. Higgins numbers.
Yes, very similar. And then, Burrow has been what he's been, and he was on bye. So yeah, it's been tough for Andrew. This Bijan thing, it's just kind of that final punch in the gut.
It is.
And yeah,
That's a tough way for your season to end.
it is.
That is right there.
And now Andrew's going to be fighting with Colin to avoid
Yep.
the disastrous punishment situation. But yeah, that wraps up the matchup. So how about you give your power rankings now?
All right, power rankings. Let's look at this league. I know a lot of people have. It seems like they've been doing their power rankings by like eyeballing rosters and just kind of doing it that way. I'll try to do it more your way.
Yeah,
incorporate performance a little bit more.
Yeah, you're gonna go objectivity and performance based.
Yeah. So Nordis is 1.
Yeah, that's not even debatable.
Yeah, it's just only difference between you and him is the bench. You hope that doesn't catch up to him, but he's done everything to be the number 1 team. You're 2. I think Dylan's 3 right now.
Mm-hmm.
Dylan looks good. I'm Lerard 4 right now. Just the state of his team. Like you said, it's a lot of just solid guys, and he's gonna have to figure out at least QB. I think there's enough out there to figure that out. Tight end, maybe not so much. That you might just have to hold on to the handlebars on that one. But he's played his way into a pretty good spot, which is crazy.
And not to interrupt, but at least he's not the only person with nothing at tight end. So
exactly, yeah. It's hard. It's going to be harder for him to find someone at tight end with so many teams in that spot. 5, I still have Sam. 6 is myself. 7, Krieger. That's where I'm going off the record path a little bit.
Sure.
8, Mecca.
Mm-hmm.
9. We got 9. 9, we'll say. Let's go 9. Lohan. 10, Horvath. 11. Klingman and 12 will say Andrew. That's it now. Yeah.
Okay. So we're pretty similar. The big difference is Krieger, but I hated putting him 4. Anyway, Nordiff, me, Dylan, that's the top 3. Like I said, I don't like putting Krieger 4th, but hey, his team's been consistent. I'll pull up the exact if this would load. Let's see here. You're looking at between 113 and 141 all but 2 weeks. He scored at least 107 every week. Like, he's had the floor.
Yeah,
It just, I don't see there being a
it's
ton of
fair.
ceiling. I still don't
Yeah,
love the team.
like McCaffrey he doesn't even give you ceiling because you need him to provide you that floor that you just mentioned.
You're right.
Like he's shouldering so much, you know.
Yeah, it's not like I think about with my team, like Mostert. I don't need Raheem Mostert to give me 20 points every week.
Yeah.
It's awesome when he does, but I need, as long as he gives me like 12, assuming those receivers perform, I'm fine.
Yeah.
What he's given has just been added. You're right. With McCaffrey, it's McCaffrey needs to score 20 points, or Krieger's probably screwed.
Yeah.
5, I went with you. This is all real bunched up in the middle.
Yeah.
6, Lerar. Sam was tough to put at 7 just because of what his team is at its best, but I also found it hard to put him ahead of any of those 3 teams in front of him. And the formula too, you got to remember the formula is what the formula spit out. Besides, I did change one thing. I did go Lerar over Sam. The formula had Sam at 6. And then Mecca, Horvath, Lohan, Andrew, Collin. Actually, it was funny. Mecca, Horvath, Lohan, Andrew, Collin were all ranked in the same spot in the 4 categories of the formula. So Mecca, for example, was 8th in record, points scored,
Everyone.
second matchup, and everyone. Horvath was 9th in all of them. That very rarely happens for that many teams. And then also Nordiff and I were 1 and 2 in all of those. So like there's that defined 1, 2, defined through 12, and then that middle 5 or 6 teams.
Yep.
It's
Trading
impossible to
places.
separate.
Yeah. For sure. And I can't see a world where that doesn't continue
Agreed.
each week.
Agreed. I could see myself going 0-2 again this week. I'm actually taking on a little bit of risk with the fact that, should I maybe explore trading for a viable running back for the next couple of weeks? Because Montgomery, I really don't think he's going to play this week, and then they're on bye. Counting on Darrell Henderson is kind of iffy, but at the same time, who would I even trade for? Like, is Zach, Darrell Henderson is the same thing as Zach Moss to me. So, and why improve Krieger's team? He doesn't deserve that. He probably wouldn't even want the guys I would offer because he probably has their teammates on other leagues.
That's correct. Yeah.
But yeah,
don't try getting Jahan Dotson off of him.
Yeah, he's a big Jahan Dotson believer.
Yeah. Going down with the ship on that one.
Yeah. You got to respect that commitment to the craft. But we've hit the midway point of the regular season, which is kind of wild how fast this flies every year. And I don't know. I don't know how it's going to shake out because we just have a bunch of teams that are on about the same playing field. And that happens every year in this league. It is what it is. Like, we don't have any.
I'm sorry. What was that? No bums, you said.
No bums in the league.
No bums. No, agreed.
Andrew is kind of a bum, but
yeah, I mean he gets his runner-up pop every 4 or 5 years.
And he's in last every time he doesn't do that.
Yeah, it's quite the variance.
It is.
I forget. Did you say we were you're doing something different with like midseason awards or
I
a
was
report or something.
I was thinking about having the league vote on them.
That's right.
Yeah,
I don't see why not.
yeah.
We vote on everything else.
Yes, exactly. And here I get called a tyrant by some
I,
people.
I wonder if there should be if we well if we are voting, you could get pretty screwy. But if there was some kind of monetary tie into a mid-season award or post an MVP like postseason awards,
That would be
it's
very,
just
it would be highly questionable.
yeah it'd be uh, with only 12 people voting. That's just a 1:30 a.m. thought.
Yes. Yeah,
But
130.
yeah, what do we do, like hour 40 on this?
Yeah, yeah, it wasn't as long as Andrew and Krieger.
Yeah, no surprises there.
No, yeah, that Andrew one is that's gonna be
Stuff
the
to
top
top.
because that was just a guy who was
Just
just,
sound bad.
yeah, complaining about everything and
Yeah.
victimizing himself, blaming everybody but himself for the situation he was in.
Now that just about everyone has been on
Mhm.
close to it, you could start as we get closer to the end of the season here. You could start getting more strategic about bringing on
Yeah.
people who had a key matchup in the previous week, or maybe they have a big matchup coming up or something like that. You could have multiple people on. Could get interesting.
Yeah, yeah, that's gonna be the goal, especially down the stretch as we have matchups that have huge playoff implications attached to them. I mean, let's even see this week. You got you against Dylan is a big one.
Yeah.
Uh, Sam Horvath, probably more important for Sam, just from a standpoint of you can't really lose to Colin and Horvath back to back weeks.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's some big ones this week. You got Nordiff against Andrew. That's going to be, I'm sure that'll be a barn burner.
That'll go well.
Uh,
I mean, if Andrew can find a way to rally his team the way I did and be a leader of men,
yeah.
he might stand a chance. But I'm not sure that he hasn't shown that he's had it in him.
No, he just doesn't. You can't be having this pessimistic mentality. And I think Sam said it when he was on. It's just kind of a poisoned organization.
Yeah, it's the if you were to draw a comparison just to it's like the Sacramento Kings.
Yeah. Yeah. The Oakland Athletics.
Yeah, just
Not giving his
losers.
players
The Philadelphia 76ers,
yes.
just loser organizations.
Just not giving their players the tools they need for success.
Yeah.
And that's why something like as much as I'm going to go back on what I said, the Bijan Robinson thing, that was not bad luck. That's what happens to organizations like that.
That's true. That's just miscommunication up and down.
That shit's not happening to team shit.
That's true.
That's not happening to team shit.
That's true.
All right. Well, it was good having you on, and hopefully this was somewhat cathartic for you.
It was. I'll try to close my eyes and hope for the best. But I appreciate you having me on. I'm looking forward to the second half.
Good luck to your team, and wish you all the best in everything.
Likewise.
All right. Take care.
Have a good night.
You as well. All right. We'll have our week 8 recap in a week. It's going to be exhilarating. Don't know who the guest is going to be. Could be anybody. Could be you. Could be me by myself. But you know what it is going to be? It's It's going to be on Halloween. Things are going to get frightening. I'll leave you with that thought. Have a good one. Good luck to all your teams, except for you, Larar, because you're facing me, and I don't want to lose again. Goodbye.